Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the GCS Connect Leaders Series. As you probably know now from avid listeners, that GCS Connect is our online community where we bring together the expert talent with the innovative companies that we work with. Smarttech247 is one of those innovative companies. It's a security consultant based primarily out of Cork. And we have Andy with us. He's going to tell me how to pronounce his surname, but I always call him Andy G, who is the CTO of Smart Tech, 20 years experience in IT, 8 years within cybersecurity, and his main role is to innovate and bring forward innovations for those security products that we use in our day-to-day lives at the moment. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, it's a pleasure to talk to you today. How are we doing?
Very, very well. And just before we start, just please the pronunciation of your surname.
It's Grzess, and David, don't worry about it. Since my time in the army, everybody just calls me Andy.
Andy, fantastic. Yeah, I think we've both got. I've got an X in my surname, which always freaks people out. You've got a Z in your surname that they get. So yeah, so it's good. But tell me a little bit more about your role and what you do, Andy, and a little bit about Smart Tech, just so we can kind of get a bit of background for you.
So Smarttech247, we are a cybersecurity MSSP and a product developing company.
Sure.
My role is mainly the innovation of new products and improving our services. We are in the business itself for over 10 years now as a company. And I spent pretty much, I think, the last 2 years in building our new platform called VisionX, actually.
VisionX, yeah.
Yeah, a very exciting time in our organization. We just started actually building the VisionX platform 2 years ago, and we're expanding now on this, and we have lots of conversations between developers, investors, in-house. It's just always crazy. It's always something going on, and of course, then getting the right people on board to help us with this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's about having that talent. And we've spoken to a few people in the last few podcasts where they're almost reaching a product launch phase. I spoke to a company the other day. I'll come back onto that one. Spoke to a company where they were talking about their product. Has it been, has working within the remote environment helped you to develop those products, or has it been kind of harder? Would you say, more challenging?
So remote work, I think, for us as a company was actually a godsend. It's a very interesting situation to be in. We are used to work remotely, and we have built out our remote capabilities as a cybersecurity company. We were very aware of potential situations that could come in place that we have to work outside of the office.
Yeah,
keep our services up as a business continuity plan dictates. So for us, it was easy to switch over, but it gave us time to focus, and it helped us understanding what is going on, and it helped us transporting our message actually back to the customers more and more, because a lot of customers underwent now a transformation of their businesses, and it accelerated the digital transformation, move into the cloud dramatically, where we actually started a couple of years ago to building out our expertise and specialization. So it all brought a lot of positive things to our organization. I mean, we all have the usual struggles, of course, working from home, not being able to see our colleagues, especially new hires. That it makes it dramatically different. And I remember a couple of days ago, I finally met one of our new hires that is working for a year now in the company.
Wow. Yeah.
And she needed to collect a screen from work because she wanted an extra screen. Because she just moved and got now finally a bigger place to stay in. Which is really interesting, and you look at the person the first time and realize, like, why does this feel wrong? I know you, I talk every day to you, and it feels like you meet a person the first time, and that was crazy. That is the mad and human side.
It's funny. My colleague who works with me in America said the other day that I think we were on the video call, and I stood up, and he said that's the first time I've ever seen below the top half of any of my colleagues.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever seen the legs of any of my colleagues. So yeah, it was an interesting one. But the VisionX product, what do you believe? What innovations does that bring to the security market, in your point of view?
So the what advantage we have compared to a lot of other product companies is that we started out as a service provider, and
Right.
we
Okay. Yeah.
identified gaps in security tool sets, and we're not coming in to reinvent the wheel again. We just make the wheels better.
Sure. Okay.
That's the idea. And so what we did is we said, like, okay, what are the common problems that our customers sees and struggles have with cybersecurity? And we went back and said, like, okay, let's look at it. And we had to look actually really on two key points here, and that is actually the cloud transformation that I mentioned already, work from home and all those things, a never-ending rise of cyber threats, of course, and then actually the amount of data that companies store these days, and the amount of data that we have to process and provide cybersecurity for. And there's lots of different things that are happening here. We have a sister company that have this unstructured data, for example, that came out of our operations. But very importantly, today, as we went in and said, like, okay, as a SIM provider, we know how to detect. But one problem that people struggle with was actually response. So we built out response capabilities into the customer's environment and build out the trust and restructure our organization also with our product to not only cater for enterprises, because enterprises can afford any kind of security, but for the small, medium customers. And that was a very important key to us, to build something out and look at what is relevant to those organizations and bring the enterprise expertise, but back to something that is usable for a small, medium business.
And that's, I guess, sometimes, that I think less and less security has become a luxury for all businesses. But obviously, when you build a huge enterprise culture, then you're obviously building that as part of it. But I guess it's true to say that the SMEs, maybe they don't think about it so much, or they just use the standard products that come with Office or Citrix or something like that, and they haven't, it's equally as important for them, but maybe they don't put as much thought into it, do they?
So thinking about, for example, startups. So I have two great examples. We had one customer that started out with a platform that they built, and as an afterthought came in, oh, we're doing actually services to customers, we need to secure it.
Yeah.
And they started working with us, and they had to redesign the whole platform they built because they're totally forgotten about security.
Wow.
Screwed them back for at least.
Won't mention the name of the company then.
So we don't mention the name of the company. We had another company coming in, and they were so security affine that they were actually needed tripping over themselves and making their journey harder. We had to slow them down and say, like, you're not yet there what you want. So it's very interesting to see, and it's, but from my experience, most customers, cybersecurity today is still a cost factor to lots of companies. They're not calculating it in as something that actually saves cost.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is way more than just, oh, there's somebody sending me an email and there's a malicious code in. We're talking about insider threats. We're talking about businesses availability. We're talking about so many other things, brand awareness. And we're addressing all those things on our platform to make sure that customers actually are protected. And then the biggest problem is an SME. How do they bring in the talent to help them with it? This is the other problem. Often companies struggle to get somebody in that has actually the knowledge to build out their security program, or they have one person in, and it's the IT manager, the CIO, the CSO, and whatever, and it's all under one umbrella. So it becomes an afterthought, one or the other direction.
And that goes back to what you were saying about large enterprises, because obviously they will have 3 or 4 people that are focused on security. But for an SME, particular startup, they're very much focused around the development, building a product, and like you said, maybe not thinking about that. And it's interesting what you said there about cybersecurity. I actually had a conversation last week with a guy called Neil from PwC, who is also a head of security for that brand. Obviously, a very different kind of sort of organization, but the idea of security adding more customer service, helping customers to use the product, making it a better product to use, i.e. cybersecurity or security itself being an enabler as opposed to a restriction. I think that's really important to look at it like that, isn't it? And I guess when you're talking to your clients, that's what you're trying to do, to build that impression of it, right?
It's two things really with it. Unfortunately, cybersecurity is a very scary place to be. Because when we
Yeah.
look at the news, we see the news, and we've seen and we help customers with breaches and situations. But it's also the what you say, the enabling to actually give you the feeling that you're secure, that you can actually do what you want to do and you need to do this.
Yeah.
And that's a very important part. And that means bridging all the levels in an organization and bringing them together. Because the problem is, what lots of people misunderstand is cybersecurity is the same as physical security and health and safety are actually a concern from the C-level down to the last person in the organization. Yeah. Everybody's responsible. And that is a target of VisionX. We build actually a technology out where we're giving a single pane of glass of lots of information coming together to one spot to enable the management and the leadership teams to make risk-based, educated decisions, understanding what's going on in their environment and translating as good as possible cybersecurity into a business view. But on the other hand side, giving the security people that have to carry out the security, the background and the information, the threat intelligence they need to do their job. But more importantly, we're taking even away that part to some extent by automating and having automated responses into their environments. So they don't have to do any more the heavy lifting. There is a regular check-in, of course, on policies and how things work and quality control points. But we're going away from the traditional service where somebody says, hey, I saw something bad happening in your environment, and here's my recommendation what to do. We're going to the point where we're saying, like, no, we see something happen and we fix it for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, finding that solution.
So it's a different way. And let's be honest, not everything in cybersecurity is dramatically crazy and hard to do. It's just time relevant, and automation is the part that we bring into this game. It's like somebody sees something and a firewall brings something up, somebody sees a malicious code or whatever it is in the environment. As soon as picked up on, the important part is that we isolate this as fast as possible. Right? When you think about cybersecurity language is based on two languages, military and medicine.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
It's very simple. When we talk about an infected system, we talk about patient zero.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we know for a fact, and now throughout the pandemic even more, identifying patient zero and identifying the source of the actual virus is the most important thing. In medicine, the same and in cybersecurity. You need to identify this, isolate, and then look at the rest of the cluster, what is happening here. And so by bringing in the capability to isolate and threat hunt throughout a customer's environment and make that affordable to an SME, because these are services that normally enterprises only can afford.
Yeah.
We're going now to the next direction, and it brings us to a level where we actually taking responsibility in so many ways. Because in the cybersecurity industry, we have a responsibility to everyone.
That's
not
right,
our customers alone. So we need to be able to share threat intelligence as much as we do, and we also bring this into our product. But we also need to be able to just detect, protect, and enable the customer on all levels in the organization to be a part of this journey. It goes so far down in our product that we say, like, we have even a functionality for an end user to report automatically if they see something going on in their mailbox that they don't understand. And we will actually produce a report and say, like, hey, this was actually a phishing attempt, well done, or this is okay, and here's the reason why it's okay. But more importantly, again, if one person sees it in their mailbox, how many other people have it in the mailbox? So we're going back to that part also and say, like, yes, we do the threat hunting. And if you find something malicious in one mailbox, we do it for all mailboxes.
Yeah, so, yeah. And that brings that builds up that bespoke nature, doesn't it?
And here you see actually how the end user becomes a tool. So the weakest link in your organization, as people see it always, becomes actually a very strong part. But also it takes away the sleepless nights from the CEO. You know why?
Yeah, that's why I want more and more to have those sleepless nights taken away. So.
Yeah, but what is your biggest worry? Is it the worry that somebody finds something? or that somebody finds somebody and doesn't tell anybody else and they click it?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, that's a very good question, and I think for me that it is very much like we handle a lot of personal data, and I think our security is quite good as a business.
Mm.
But it's like, and this again is something I think is the reputation, isn't it? Is the reputation, if you're handling this data and you didn't handle it well, will people entrust you with that data going forward? I don't think we handle any data that particularly is, not available if you really keep looking, because basically it's CVs and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
it's the reputational element of it, isn't it? I think that's key for businesses nowadays.
I think reputation, but as you say, when you talk about private information as
Mm.
such, we have, of course, all the regulations, and even with maybe the UK leaving or have
Yeah,
left now, GDPR is still a part of the same rule set that you apply than we apply
yeah,
to.
exactly. Yeah,
And it's not only the reputational part. The reputation is very important, but as you said, like um, I can find a CV, I can find information on people on the internet. We have teams that
mm.
work every day on the dark web finding things for us, on C-level people in the organization we deal with, to warn them, hey, somebody is running a phishing campaign, somebody's doing
Mm.
this, that, all this great stuff. But the important thing is, I, as an organization, I have a responsibility, and I think that's a very important thing. And I want to keep the trust of every single user, not just the reputation as a whole brand, but every single, if every single customer is important. You're in the recruitment business, so you have a lots of people, applicants and customers, that looking for talent. I think we all talk about things, and especially with you guys, because we need to talk open about our needs as an organization or as an applicant, what I want to do. There's a lot of private shared information and trust built up in very short time. I think for you guys, it is very important, of course, to keep the reputation, but also keeping up the trust with everyone. Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen situations where something with recruiters went wrong in the past. One of the scariest thing that ever, or not scary for me, but for another person, one of the weirdest thing that ever happened to me. I got actually a contract sent by an organization to me for a company that I never applied to.
Yeah.
Under the name of somebody totally else. And what happened is somebody got actually my email address from a recruiter into the organization and accidentally used my email address to send out a contract to another person.
Wow. Was it a good contract? Did you take it on, Andy? Did you do it?
I know. That was one. But the interesting part for me was on that was not that happened, because it's human error. Human error can be replaced with automation. When you not do manual emails, when you use the right systems, this can't happen anymore. So that showed me that this company was yet on a early stage of their digital transformation journey. They still didn't understood how to use this. But what's important to me is, I of course reported back to them and said, like, hey guys, I went to the not to the end user directly. I said, like, hey, look, this happens right now to you guys. Could you please inform that person also that that happened to you? This is a breach of privacy and so on, and I want them to know that I actually had access to this. And that it was not by my wrongdoing. Now, the company redeemed themselves relatively fast by actually sending an email to that user in CC with me saying, like, hey, we made a mistake here, honest, hands up, doesn't this happen? And I replied to the person then and said, like, look, I saw immediately that it was not for me. I didn't open anything of your details and I deleted the email. That gave them, but I spoke to the company later. That person did not sign the contract.
And that's where it then becomes processed, doesn't it? It's about looking at every single, like risk point, every single warning point as you're going along, and highlighting that, and obviously learning as you're going along. What really interests me is, within your background, obviously you work with Siemens and startups as well. You work for, companies developing software and also consulting services, and then some of the bigger players. Do you think that when you now speak as a CTO to clients, and I know a lot of your role is client facing, that background really helps you, because you've been in their position, you've been in different positions, so you can kind of see it from different angles? Is that something that you find useful for yourself?
I think it makes a huge difference, because I can speak a similar language with customers than they speak. It makes it easier to understand and trying to put yourself in their shoes. And it's one thing you always say, okay, when you sell something and the CTO sells at the end too. I have to sell our company, I have to sell my ideas and visions. It's a very important piece is, of course, to put yourself in the shoes of someone. And when you've been before in the shoes, or at least in a similar role, it's much easier than never have done something like that. It makes a huge difference. And I think for any role, as it is C-level management, anything, experience and mixed experience makes a difference, because we can now combine the shared knowledge of different things. Hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? I worked in television myself, so I have a good understanding. So when we talking to media companies and other people, it's relatively easy for me to translate into their language. Working for Siemens on big cybersecurity concern that most of the time is not actually addresses. For example, OT, industrial controls, being my work life origins from electronics. I've been an electrician and worked in electronics for a long term. I work for Deutsche Telekom, for example, helps me understanding actually what is OT meaning, what are logics behind there, how do they work. When I talk to a customer, so like, yes, I understand OT. The first thing is they look at you. Sure, like, yes, actually I worked on Siemens technologies. I built manually logic boards that are today programmable. I understand the very basics of it. I understand what your sensors and what your actuators are actually doing and how they're plugging into your IT. And when you have this conversation, or you can explain how you made a mistake once in your life, and that's why you learned, and now I can go back to him and say, hey, this happened to me and I made this mistake and I fixed it. So this mistake I will never ever make in a customer's environment ever, because I understand it. And I'm not just the cybersecurity IT guy that comes in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's having that wide range. I'm interested in what you just said there. I think that will kind of resonate with a few people about the CTO selling. You know, the standard construction of how a CTO works is generally not, you know, an IT recruiter wouldn't necessarily see a CTO as selling, but you obviously see that as an important part of what you do. Does that make the role more interesting for you because you have that customer interaction and because you have that selling capability? Or do you...
So the interesting part about this is actually everybody forgets that we're all salespeople. Every single person. It doesn't matter if I'm a doctor, a CTO, whatever I am. I have to sell somebody an idea. It doesn't matter if it's money or the buy-in that they're doing something. So I have a double sales position. I have to sell to the outside of the business and into the inside. Because if I come up with an idea, I have to convince other people that they back me, that they sponsor me and give me the money to build it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then on the other side, I have to convince a customer that my product is really good. Now we have salespeople, we have sales engineers for that. But when it is a larger project, of course, they want to go to the root of all evils, so to say. So what I'm building, they want to understand, and they want to understand, hey, what is your innovation pipeline? What are you doing here? What are you doing there? And therefore, of course, yes, a CTO is a part of the sales team, especially when you build software.
Yeah.
More than anywhere else.
Yeah. And I think it is really, you know, because you're the person, like you said, is potentially partly your idea along with your team, but as the leader, you're the person that's going to be able most passionately to project that idea and get people excited by it. How do you do that? What are your best, you know, if a CTO is listening to this and felt they needed to improve how they do this, what would your best advice be on how to buy people into those ideas?
Actually, it's a very interesting thing, and because we are at the moment in a lot of a process of bringing the VisionX platform out and bringing investors in. And the key to everything is talk to your peers in the organization, present what you do, tell your story, because I get on a regular basis destroyed by our CEO.
Oh, okay.
Like, and this just doesn't work for me. This doesn't work. And at the beginning, I was very upset about it, actually.
Oh, okay.
You work on it really hard, and you're like, I got it now. I have the idea, and I know what I do there. And you're like, no, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't flow. Then they come back. But then the good thing is when you have a good CEO or general manager or CFO, whoever you're talking to, or even just, you know, one of your managers that work for you or whatever, and they give you feedback. Take the feedback, take it in, try again, do again. And most important thing is understand what you do. And that's the good old Albert Einstein story, you know. If you can't explain it in simple words, you most likely don't understand it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think it was Albert Einstein who said it, or maybe it was Stephen Hawking. I don't know anymore who. But and it's true. I noticed that when I present something and I'm not feeling comfortable, that means I'm not comfortable with the material I'm presenting. So I have to make myself comfortable. I have to understand it. I need to be able to answer side questions. And that often means I have to research and talk to people about it actively and repeat myself. And to be honest, one thing is standing in front of the mirror, in front of the computer, and just go over it again and again and again.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, as more often you do it, you start hearing words that you say that you don't like.
Yeah, yeah.
And you scrap them out and
Mm.
replace them with the right words. And now it becomes something. And then you go in and you just present, and somebody comes around like, well, where did that come from?
And do you find yourself doing the same thing now with people bringing you ideas to you? Are you pulling them apart and sending them away again?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes in with a new idea, I would not pull them apart. Let's say, because they're coming to me to tell me an idea. So I listen to the idea. I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. But what you do then, of course, is you ask questions.
Yeah, that's right.
You do this?
That's how we all learn.
How much time does it cost you to build this? That were my questions, right?
Yeah. Who's going to buy this?
You know? And then the funny thing is, why should I build it? Because it's your idea. And then it's like, if you want to do this as a project, I give you here an offer, you know, because I want people involved in innovation. That's very important. Hey, you like this? Now there's a lot of things that comes from us at the moment into the organization from top down, but we have also the process from the bottom up. And that makes it a very interesting mixed bag of things that are happening. So I like when our guys come in and say like, hey, I have an idea, or hey, I solved a problem.
Yeah. That's the best one, isn't it? Is that the sort of kind of environment culture that you're trying to build at Smarttech? I mean, you mentioned already about the innovation and the ideas. Is within the sort of environment you're in, I guess that's really important.
I think the key to our success is that we have very strong teams that can be self-sufficient to some extent. I don't believe in micromanagement in the very first place, because micromanagement restricts people and it doesn't give them a chance to expand to their full capabilities. That's a very important thing. Sometimes there are projects where you have to manage because it's time sensitive and you have to be on the dot and you have to go back again and again and make sure that everything is done in time. And that are the painful situations in the organization that nobody likes. I don't like it, my employees don't like it, but we have to do it. That are the must-have to do things. And then everything else should be, and we're working on it. And it's hard work again and again to stop sometimes what we do and start listening again. Because we're all getting at some stage, we always start like this, wide open. And then we narrow down, and at some stage we get to tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And then you need to break this open again. You need to get out of your tunnel vision, because when you start with a tunnel vision, you become perfect in one thing, but there is no perfect.
No.
So we need to broaden this up, and the only people that can do that is our peers again, and the people that work day to day with me, my team, because they come in and say like, Andy, this is stupid. Why do we do this? And then we argue about it. And I like those conversations. Not because there's often things where I say like, you think about this, and I win. No, because they make me think about what I'm talking about. They make me think, oh, do we do this actually right? Do we treat the people right sometimes? It's simple things. It's not always innovation in the form of idea, but innovation of process. How do we do things is also very important. It's not only the product itself, it's how we deal with each other, how we deal with our customers, and how do we make things work. And there's so often where somebody says, hey, Andy, you know what, this is really cool and it works, but can we do it this way? And how often that happened, and first, there's comes your own ego also in place. Like, but I made this idea, I made this process. I don't want to change it. You just have to jump over your own shadow, and the same like for presentations, and swallow your own pride for a moment and just go back and reflect on it. And
yeah, that's right.
that reflection actually makes those decisions that actually are changing the small butterflies.
Yeah,
change actually the whole course of something happening.
totally. And then I think a good leader is someone that will be open to ideas. You can't say I want to build a culture with ideas and then not be open to those ideas, but also, bear in mind the types of people they need within their organization to build those ideas. You're obviously trying to build that sort of culture. So what types of people, what types of things do you really look out for in the people that you interview that you think can bring the right type of culture to you?
Yeah. So the first thing of everything is basic knowledge. There's one thing which is really important, but what I see constantly is when people oversell themselves in their CVs and they just don't even understand the basics.
Yeah.
This is a huge problem throughout the industry, because cybersecurity is IT plus cybersecurity. So you need to understand IT basics, for example.
Yeah.
If you don't understand them, I can't help you, because we're moving so fast and we talk so fast, and cybersecurity is so fast changing consistently. That's one thing. And when that is done, the next thing is very first, how do you fit into the team? How does your culture fit with our organization? It's the most important thing. Are you innovative? Are you capable of solving problems by yourself? Are you thinking out of the box? So we have 3-4 typical questions in an interview that help us identifying if a person A is able to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And going really the steps from A to B to C, and not just jumping to conclusions, because they think this way. That's the first thing. And then people that are team players. It's a very important thing. How do they fit into the team? Can the team, because as soon as you have 1 or 2 people in a larger team or even a smaller team that are just not fitting in, it becomes really a hard bit for the whole team to deal with it. For me as a leader, because I always have to firefight and go in between small issues. For the rest of the team, because everybody has to take special care of this one person. And that makes and that person feels then at some stage victimized in the worst case scenario. And that is a situation so it is very important to identify, is this person fitting into my team?
Yeah, the culture that you need. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very important. It's a very so what the thing is, attitude. The right attitude is a key to any hire, because everything else we can teach to some extent, but the basics are there. It's like I would love my dream employee is someone that I just say, here's a problem, fix it, and they just ask what are the tools that I get for that. And
that's right.
That is my dream. Now, I learned, especially in my role now, that a lot of stuff that I bring to the table is experience more than anything else. And that experience gives me the capability to connect bits and pieces in the world and bring up ideas and fix problems. With younger people, I can't get that experience. They need to build this experience. So what I need to be able to do, take away the fear of falling on your face.
That's right. Yeah.
That's my job. Make mistakes. I always say there's 2 things that are important in my team. Is number 1 is there's no stupid questions unless you ask them 3 times.
Yeah.
And when you ask the same question 3 times to the same person, you just still don't understand it, you make a mistake. You should have gone the second time at least to somebody else, because you maybe just explained it wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think it's very true. You have to have that open culture, don't you? Where particularly if you're thinking about innovation, about change, and you have to have that yourself. And now coming into the kind of the post-COVID world, and you're obviously hiring at Smarttech. How are you seeing the kind of talent landscape, particularly within the security arena, changing? You already mentioned that it's IT plus, so obviously it adds to the complexity of what is needed. Have you seen difference in the types of applications that you're getting? Are you changing your style of interviewing, anything like that?
So I think the style of interviewing has just changed. Like we do it now in a remote format instead of face to face, which brings up two challenges. We had situations where people had actually somebody sitting in the same room pretending they can't turn on their camera, and we could hear people whispering and answering to their ear.
Wow, okay, I hadn't heard of that one, but I've heard of a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that is one. So we figure out we adjust a little bit how we interviewed and how we ask the questions sometimes, just to see that somebody is not Googling on the fly on their phone, so you don't hear them typing anymore. We've seen so many things, but yeah, that is one thing. But overall, I think that the scary bit is right now, and COVID gave people the opportunity to do lots of courses, but get a lot of people that not really know. They did the course, they have the certification, but they never did it in real life.
Yeah, that's right.
So the hands-on experience problem is really big. I get lots of CVs these days where I can see 10 certifications in the last year.
Yeah.
And I look at that CV and say like, okay. And then I look at another CV where some guy comes in and has 10 years or 5 years experience, but not a single certification in the CV. And I try not to be biased and I interview both guys. But in 80% of the cases, the guy with less certifications, but a little bit more experience is a guy that can do the, or girl. We don't care in our company. So it's a very important thing also that I learned over the years. We build sometimes stereotypes in our minds up. You have to break them down when you recruit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a very important thing. It's really because you go just due to experience that you had with people and stereotypes, you need to break them consistently down. So we hired in the last year 2 amazing people, and they would have not passed the over a pint of beer with your friend discussion, about stereotypes. They never would have passed it to a company. But by breaking this down into saying, take your bias away, and because we all are, we cannot free ourselves. It doesn't matter who it is, and so take it away and just go in. Be not biased. Just be open-minded. Let them tell their story and take.
I think that's sometimes the interesting thing. I mean, being in recruitment so many years, the CV, resume, whatever is such an important tool to present someone, but it's also such a barrier to creating a stereotype. We call it in recruitment CV blindness.
Yeah.
So if I look at I look, as a recruiter, I look at 100 CVs a day. If I've seen one that I thought looked good at the start of the day, by the end of the day, I can't see anything good about any other CV.
Yeah.
Then you look sometimes at people that get jobs, and then you look at the CV and you think to yourself, how did this person get this job? I can't see it. I can't see it from the CV. Yeah. But then you speak to the person, you understand the person. And like you said, like breaking down those stereotypes, I can see exactly why this person got this job. So you have to use the CV as this person has basic knowledge, but talking to someone, interviewing them and getting to know them, although it might take a little bit more time, I think it's really, really important as a leader to break down those stereotypes, which are so damaging in this day and age, isn't it?
And it makes a huge difference. It's like one example, for example, again, is new talent. We had 2 people more or less fresh out of college and university.
Sure.
So, and if you ask me normally, I would say like, okay, what people learn in college and university doesn't help the job.
I've said that many times as an IT recruiter.
A lot of stuff that the universities teaches is out of date.
Yeah.
It's not relevant and it doesn't give you experience.
Sure.
Both people, one fresh out of college, but typical gamer, builds his own computers and actually did a lot of practical work for his thesis, and actually not only research but tried out the things that he researched. So I can put him in front of a computer day one and he could do the work actually.
That's right.
I didn't have to tell him how many applicants I've seen that I literally have to tell how to turn on a computer nearly. They have all the theoretical stuff. And the other person had a couple of years tech support experience in India. So, but not directly related to what we do actually in the cyber world, but did then the masters in cyber and everything. So, and in the interview we went in and there was it was a really good interview already, and it felt like a good fit, but there was a few things that we were open. And instead of going down the route of running another interview and another interview to figure this out, we said, like, you know what, how about we give you a little challenge? Something simple, easy, something that is easy to do. So we did so, and to be fair, we did that then with 3-4 candidates in a row. So like, we're not giving it only to one, so we open this door up to everyone to prove themselves. And the interesting part is this person, we gave them a week to do it. And the next day, the person came back, here, done.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you want, isn't it? Like you said, like if I give you a problem, you'll solve it. You know,
and we looked at it, and the most important thing was about this. It was we had a very simple task set up: just extract some data with Python and reformat the data in a more legible format. That was all we did. Nothing crazy. A little bit regex, a little bit Python. So something that you can expect from somebody that says they have Python on their CV. This one person blew us away. I mean, wow. Yes. And this person within not even a half a year took one of our biggest customers on, leading a project, which I would say with other people, building up that trust would have taken a year normally, easily, before because this person was just so good, and she was so good engaging with customer and everything. And there was never a but, or I'm not sure. It was always like, hey, yes, maybe we can do it this way better. And the whole attitude and the knowledge coming together, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess like we've spoken already on this about how leaders use their experience. I mean, maybe this is a point where leaders shouldn't use their experience, because that's what builds up stereotypes. You know, this type of person always works, but not always. And sometimes this type of person works. And maybe in this day and age, we need to be much more open to that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also important. What I notice in recruitment is we have to be flexible with the roles that we throw out there in the market. It is a very funny thing again that happened here. We were looking for a cybersecurity engineer, as we call it, SOC engineer, whatever you call them these days. Yep. And we got one guy in, and he had such a good capability of communicating. So, you know, so engineers should be able to communicate. There's no question about it. You know? But that person has such a strong customer focus and capability. And we said, like, okay, if you hire this person will be probably bored in the position within a couple of weeks. Because and we went in, actually we spoke about it with the team and said, like, why don't we just actually create the technical account manager position finally that we always wanted? But
that's right.
Did. And one of the greatest decisions that we made, it was a team decisioning, and here comes a very important part. As a leader, talk to your peers.
That's right. Try and create something, try to think outside the box. And I think
I went in and I share the sharing process with our general manager and our team lead. So we go over all candidates together, and we talk about the goods and bads, of course, and gut feeling is an important thing sometimes also. But the one thing was, like, we both loved, the general manager and I, we both loved the guy, but we said, like, he would be not wasted, but he has so much talent on the other side, so that we actually said, like, why don't we just bring him into the role that we always spoke about but never built.
Brilliant. So you adjusted according to the skills, which is another
it's a very, very unusual thing to do, actually, because most of the time we have a budget and a head count that we want to fill.
I find the best. I mean, we've talked a lot here, and you know, it's been a very interesting. But I find the best companies can be flexible to take on talent. At GCS, we always talk about connecting expert talent to innovative companies, but part of that is to recognize expert talent and see how they'll fit into your organization. And the more flexible you can be, the better team you can build. You know, you form it about the people that come to you, not necessarily about what you exactly need to fill. But no, it's been a great conversation today, Andy. You know, it's great to speak to someone that matches up leadership alongside innovation. And I think the way you kind of think about it and talk about it is very, very interesting. So I really value your input today, and good luck with when is the product launched, or has it been launched?
Well, the product is already there, and we're using it in the enterprise phase. But we will be launching actually the new SMB version I think in May.
Fantastic.
And we bring in a new product in May that we on a large scale. We have the product already running on an enterprise level, but we bring it now as a more user-friendly SMB version. That's Snowfish. That's one of my first babies that I introduced here. So that will be also the beginning of May coming into the early access phase. And that is very exciting. And that makes, again, the pains that we go through sometimes and the torture that we bring up on ourselves.
That's
that
right.
makes it worse because you can go there. Hey, you see that there on the webpage? My team built that.
That's right. Yes, that's the thing
what
we
can
do.
be greater?
Fantastic. Well, great to speak to you today. Thank you very much, Andy, and see you soon. Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Cheers. Bye.